she who is in Babylon, elect together with you, greets you, and so does Mark, my son. Do I still need to prove any further that you can live in Zion, right in the midst of Babylon? She who is in Babylon, elect together with you, greets you, and so does Mark, my son. Before we go any further, let me also share with you that citizens of Zion who love the pleasures of this present world too much and indulge in them may later or sooner switch loyalty to Babylonian influence and infiltration till they relocate fully in Babylon. Let me share this thought with you too before we get there, before we get to the mountains of culture. Do you remember in Mark chapter 5 that while the gathering demoniac was delivered, the demons in him begged that they should be allowed to go into the swine. Where were these swine playing? On the mountain. Do we have any connection with the swine? Oh, you will say, no, God forbid. But you read the parable of the prodigal son. When they turn away from the father's house, they are sent to the field to feed the swine that will be on the mountain. So if you indulge too much in the pleasures of this world, before long you switch loyalty and find yourself in Babylon. Is there a clear example? Yes. A clear example of this is a disciple named Demas who abandoned Apostle Paul. Colossians chapter 4, 7 to 15. Tychicus, a beloved brother, faithful minister and fellow servant in the Lord, will tell you all the news about me. I'm sending him to you for this very purpose, that he may know your circumstances and comfort your hearts. With Onesimus, a faithful and beloved brother, who is one of you, they will make known to you all things which are happening here. Aristarchus, my fellow prisoner, greets you. We Mark, the cousin of Barnabas, about whom you received instructions. If he comes to you, welcome him. And Jesus, who is called Justus, these are my only fellow workers for the kingdom of God, who of the circumcision, they have proved to be a comfort to me. Epaphras, who is one of you, a bondservant of Christ, greets you, always laboring fervently for you in prayers, that you may stand perfect and complete in all the will of God. For I bear him witness that he has great zeal for you, and those who are in Laodicea and here in Hierapolis. Luke, the beloved physician, and Demas greet you. Demas was in the company of saints, comforting Paul, encouraging Paul, strengthening Paul. Philemon 23 and 25. You see him in action again. Epaphras, my fellow prisoner in Christ Jesus, greets you. As do Mark, Aristarchus, Demas, Luke, my fellow laborers. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with your spirit. Amen. And now let's see 2 Timothy 4, 9 to 10. Be diligent to come quickly to me, for Demas has forsaken me, having loved this present world, and has departed for Thessalonica, Crescens for Galatia, Titus for Dalmatia. You can read on. Demas has forsaken me. Why? Having loved this present world. Only Luke is with me. Demas has forsaken me. The name Demas means popular. Those who seek popularity in ministry may end up like Demas. Therefore, if you are being used by God and you do not want to end up like Demas, please listen once again to Apostle Peter's wise counsel. 1 Peter 5, 6 to 10. Humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time, casting all your care upon him, for he cares for you. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Resist him steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same sufferings are experienced by your brotherhood in the world. But may the God of all grace, who called us to his eternal glory by Christ Jesus, after you have suffered a while, perfect, establish, strengthen, and set you. Can I hear amen? Someone may ask, how then do I live in Zion, right in the midst of Babylon? I'm glad you asked. It is the same way Daniel and his companions lived differently in Babylon as captives from Zion. They were captives, but they did not yield to all the seductive tendencies of captivity. Rather than being sucked into Babylonian system, they became prominent Zion leaders in Babylon. Daniel chapter 1, verse 3 to 8. Daniel 1, 3 to 8. Then the king instructed Aspenaz, the master of his eunuchs, to bring some of the children of Israel and some of the king's descendants and some of the nobles, young men in whom there was no blemish, but good looking, gifted in all wisdom, possessing knowledge and quick to understand, who had the ability to serve in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the language and literature of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed for them a daily provision of the king's delicacies and of the wine which he drank, and 3 years of training for them, so that at the end of that time they might serve before the king. Now from among those of the sons of Judah, not all of them, from among those were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. To them the chief of the eunuchs gave names. He gave Daniel the name Belteshazzar, to Hananiah Shadrach, to Mishael Meshach, and to Azariah Abednego. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's delicacies, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the chief of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Verse 17 to 20. As for these 4 young men, God gave them knowledge and skill in all knowledge, in all literature and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Now at the end of the days, when the king had said that they should be brought in, the chief of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. Then the king interviewed them, and among them all, none was found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore they served before the king. And in all matters of wisdom and understanding, about which the king examined them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers who were in all his realm. Where were they living? I can't hear you. Were they Babylonians? No. They became iconic leaders of Zion in Babylon. Not only was Daniel an iconic Zion leader in Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, the powerful king of Babylonian empire, prostrated flat before him. Daniel chapter 2, 46 to 49. Daniel 2, 46 to 49. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face, prostrate before Daniel, and commanded that they should present an offering and incense to him. The king answered Daniel and said, truly your God is the God of gods, the Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, since you could reveal this secret. Then the king promoted Daniel and gave him many great gifts. And he made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon and chief administrator over all the wise men of Babylon. Also Daniel petitioned the king, and he said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel sat in the gate of the king. He was in Babylon, but not of Babylon. Tell your neighbor, You can live in Zion, in the midst of Babylon. This was the way Joseph lived in Egypt. First as Captain Potiphar's slave, then as a prisoner, jailed unjustly, till he became the father of Pharaoh and ruler over the whole land of Egypt. It is on record that Joseph taught the senators of Egypt wisdom, and I think Nigerian senators need some Joseph to talk sense into their heads, so that from the Senate president to the rest of them, they will know how to use their position accurately. Genesis 41, verse 38 to 44. The Spirit of God was in Joseph. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, inasmuch as God has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard to the throne will I be greater than you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you below. I can't hear you. I have set you over all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring off his hand and put it on Joseph's hand, and he clothed him in garments of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. I like the next verse. And he had him ride in the second chariot, Air Force 2, which he had, and they cried out before him, bow the knee. So he set him over all the land of Egypt. You can be in Egypt and not be an Egyptian. Pharaoh also said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without your consent, no man may lift his hand of food in all the land of Egypt. Genesis 45, verse 3. Then Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Does my father still live? But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed in his presence. The one they considered long dead, buried, forgotten. And Joseph said to his brothers, please come near to me. So they came near. Then he said, I am Joseph, your brother. I like it in Hebrew. Ani Yosef, I am Joseph. Apamaku. I'm Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. But now do not therefore be grieved or angry with yourselves, because you sold me here. And that's your own agenda. You sold me here. But my understanding of what you did is that God sent me before you to preserve life. For these 2 years, the famine has been in the land, and there are still 5 years in which there have been neither plowing nor harvesting. And God sent me before you to preserve a posterity for you in the earth, and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So now it was not you who sent me here, but God. And he has made me a father to Pharaoh, and Lord of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. Hurry and go up to my father and say to him, thus says your son Joseph, God has made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down to me, do not tarry. You shall dwell in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near to me, you and your children, your children's children, your flocks and your herds, and all that you have. There I will provide for you, lest you and your household and all that you have come to poverty. For there are still 5 years of famine. And behold, your eyes and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see, that is my mouth that speaks to you, not a ghost. So you shall tell my father of all my glory in Egypt, and all that you have seen you shall hurry and bring my father down here. Then he fell on his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept on his neck. Moreover, he kissed all his brothers and wept over them, and after that his brothers talked with him. Psalm 105, verse 16 to 22. I'm deliberately reading those portions of scripture so that you can see that you can live in Zion, right in the midst of Babylon. You can be in Egypt and rule over them all by not compromising your values. Moreover, I call for a famine in the land. It destroys all the provision of bread. When God wants to move, he will do some things and you'll be wondering, this cannot be God. It is God. He sent a man before them, Joseph, who was sold as a slave. They hurt his feet with fetters. He was laid in irons until the time that his word came to pass. The word of the Lord tested him. God will not use an untested vessel. The king sent and released him. The ruler of the people let him go free. He made him lord of his house and ruler of all his possessions, to bind his princes at his pleasure and teach his elders wisdom. Give me verse 22 in KJV, so that you know that the Nigerian Senate needs a Joseph that will constantly coach them, so that they stop misusing their tongues as if they are completely excluded from all that is happening. Be careful. The trigger happy boys are everywhere now. Be careful. We cannot continue this way. Be careful. God forbid that there be a military intervention in Nigeria. We can't stand it. We don't want it. But don't bring them in, or you become barbecue. He said to bind his princes at his pleasure and teach his senators wisdom. May God raise wise teachers that will teach our senators how to behave properly. Some of them belong to kindergarten school of character. Now let me go further. Living in Zion right in the midst of Babylon can also be likened to the way Jesus lived for 40 days in the wilderness of temptation, where he was surrounded by wild beasts, but angels still came and ministered to him. You find that in Mark chapter 1, you can read it from verse 9 to 13. For 40 days he was there in the wilderness. He was surrounded by wild beasts, but no wild beast can stop the angel from coming. You can be in the midst of Babylon and enjoy all the benefits of Zion. People of God, living in Zion in the midst of Babylon is the same as being in the world and not being part of the world. Is this clear to you? I can hear your answer. Once this is understood by everyone, what then is left is how we all, as sons of light, must conduct ourselves in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation. You must understand you are living in the midst, you are walking in the midst, you are studying in the midst of a perverse and crooked generation. You must understand that clearly. Philippians 2:12 to 18. It doesn't matter the organization where you work. In this fallen world, there will be many there that will be sons of darkness. Therefore, my beloved, as you have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. For it is God who works in you, both to will and to do for his good pleasure. Do all things without complaining and disputing, that you may become blameless and harmless children of God without fault in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom you shine as lights in the world. Hold them fast the word of life, so that I may rejoice in the day of Christ, that I have not run in vain or labored in vain. Yes, and if I'm being poured out as a drink offering on the sacrifice and service of your faith, I am glad and rejoice with you all. For the same reason, you also be glad and rejoice with me. 1 Peter 2:11 to 17. 1 Peter 2:11 to 17. Beloved, I beg you as sojourners and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly laws which war against the soul, having your conduct honorable among the Gentiles, that when they speak against you as evildoers, they may by your good works, which they observe, glorify God in the day of visitation. Therefore submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether to king as supreme, or to governors, as to those who are sent by him, for the punishment of evildoers and for the praise of those who do good. For this is the will of God, that by doing good you may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men. Can I pause here for a moment and tell you this? The moment you justify your blunders and mistakes in life and say nobody's above mistakes, you'll be bound by them. But if you rise up and say, Daniel had no fault, I'll live my life and walk in such a way that no fault can be found in me, then you begin to excel. For this is the will of God, that by doing good, you may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men. As free, you're not using liberty as a cloak for vice, but as bond servants of God. Honor all people. Love the brotherhood. Fear God. Honor the king. At this juncture, because of time, I would like to call your attention to the teaching of the Lord contained in the parable of the unjust steward. Please turn your Bible with me to the Gospel according to Luke, chapter 16, verse 1 to 8. Luke 16, 1 to 8. He also said to his disciples, there was a certain rich man who had a steward, and an accusation was brought to him that this man was wasting his goods. So he called him and said to him, what is this I hear about you? Give an account of your stewardship, for you can no longer be steward. Then the steward said within himself, this is called personal evaluation. What shall I do? For my master is taking the stewardship away from me. I cannot dig SWOT analysis. I'm ashamed to beg. It's better than some charismatics. I've resolved what to do, that when I'm put out of the stewardship, they may receive me into their houses. So he called every one of his master's debtors to him and said to the first, how much do you owe my master? And he said, 100 measures of oil. So he said to him, take your bill and sit down quickly and write 50. Then he said to another, how much do you owe? So he said, 100 measures of wheat. He said to him, take your bill and write 80. So the master commended the unjust steward because he had dealt how? Shrewdly. For the sons of this world are more shrewd in their generation than the sons of light. Read that with me one more time. For the sons of this world are more shrewd in their generation than the sons of light. Luke chapter 16, verse number 8, is the verdict of the Lord regarding the sons of this world. He said, for the sons of this world are more shrewd in their generation than the sons of light. I've taught you in times past that this passage is an indictment on the sons of light. I would like to show you why I think so. To start with, this passage does not say that the sons of light are not shrewd at all. Does it say so? No, it said they are more. The sons of this world are more shrewd in their generation than the sons of light. The emphasis here is on being more shrewd than the sons of light. People of God, are the sons of this world supposed to be more shrewd in their generation than the sons of light? I can't hear you. No, they shouldn't. We know that they know how to outsmart themselves in their own generation with all kinds of sharp practices. But should they outsmart us when they deal with us just because we live in the same space with them or work in the same organization with them? Should their children outsmart our children who go to the same schools and colleges with them? And should they overwhelm us with their tricks in the marketplace or as our professional colleagues? My honest answer to these questions is capital no. But you and I know that they often take advantage of our simplicity and naivety because of their subtlety. David prayed a serious prayer about this situation in Psalm 144, verse 11 to 15. And I want you to rise and pray with me. King James Version, Psalm 144, 11 to 15. Listen to the prayer of David. Read me. In NKJV, say, rescue me. Ready, their youth, that our daughters may be our cornerstones, polished after the similitude of a palace, that our garners may be full, affording all manner of store, that our sheep may bring forth thousands and 10,000 in our streets, that our oxen may be strong to labor, that there be no breaking in, nor going out, that there be no complaining in our streets. Happy is that people that is in such a case. Yea, happy is that people whose God is the Lord. With this prayer, is David saying that they are better than us? Is he saying they are superior to us? What prayer is he praying? Rescue me, deliver me from the hand of strange children, whose mouth speak lying words, and whose right hand is that hand of falsehood. You may be seated. Let me, within a few minutes left, I don't think I can finish this. Let's dig deeper into this subject by looking at the definition of who a shrewd person is. Who is a shrewd person? A shrewd person is one who is able to understand and judge a situation quickly and to use this understanding to his or her own advantage. Is that clear to you? A person who is able to understand and judge they think on their feet, to judge a situation quickly and to use this understanding to his or her own advantage. Synonyms for the word shrewd include astute, clever, and sharp. A person who is shrewd is acute in perception and sound in judgment. Acute in perception and sound in judgment. People of God, I have 4 important questions that we all need to answer in order for us to shake off any shape or form of ignorance or naivety. Question number 1. Should the saints of God not be more accurate in perception and sound in judgment with Christ as the wisdom of God living in us? 1 Corinthians 1, 26 to 32. For you see your calling, God has chosen, and the things which are not, to bring to nothing the things that are. Why? That no flesh should glory in his presence. But of him you are in Christ Jesus, who became for us wisdom from God and righteousness and sanctification and redemption, that as it is written, he who glories, let him glory in the Lord. If you are not in your show of business trip, if you are always giving glory to God and you humble yourself, Christ, the wisdom of God, will manifest in you when you are dealing with the sons of this world. Question number 2. Don't we have the gifts of the Spirit, especially the gift of the discerning of the Spirit that operates in us as the Holy Spirit deems fit? Do you understand this question? If the gifts of the Spirit are in operation in you, I know they are subject to the Holy Spirit. It releases them as it deems fit. But one of those gifts is the gift of the discerning of spirit. So you know exactly who is standing before you. 1 Corinthians 12, 7 to 11. But the manifestation of the Spirit is given to pastors, apostles, evangelists. No, the manifestation of the Spirit is given to each one for the profit of all. For to one is given the word of wisdom through the Spirit, to another the word of knowledge through the same Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit, to another gifts of healings by the same Spirit, to another the working of miracles, to another prophecy, to another discerning of spirits, to another different kinds of tongues, to another the interpretation of tongues. But one and the same Spirit work all these things, distributing to each one individually as he wills. If the Holy Spirit is distributing this and you are dealing with the word and this gives an operation in your life, there's no way they can outsmart you. Let's leave question 2 for question 3. If you think that the gift of discerning of spirit is dependent on the Holy Spirit as it deems fit, does not the word of God, which is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart of men, does it not dwell in us richly? You have yourself to blame if the word of God is not dwelling in you richly. Colossians 3, 16 to 17. Let. It's your responsibility. Colossians 3, 16 to 17. Let the word of Christ dwell in you where? Richly in all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with grace in your hearts to the Lord. And whatever you do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. Hebrews chapter 4, verses 12 and 13. Hebrews 4, 12 and 13. For the word of God is living and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the division of soul and spirit and of joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. And there's no creature hidden from his sight, including the sons of this world. But all things are naked and open to the eyes of him to whom we must give account. Peter looked at Ananias and Sapphira. He said, why are you lying to the Holy Spirit? Question number 4. Can we in all seriousness stand before God and say that the wisdom that is from above is inferior to the sensual, demonic, and earthly wisdom that's in operation in the children of disobedience? Can we justify that? Can we in all seriousness say that? James 3, 13 to 18. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show by good conduct that his works are done in the meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter envy and self-seeking in your hearts, do not boast and lie against the truth. This wisdom does not descend from above, but is earthly, sensual, demonic. For where envy and self-seeking exist, confusion and every evil thing are there. But the wisdom that's from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. Now the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. If we have all these things on our side, the Spirit of the living God, the Word of the living God, if you have the with Christ, the wisdom of God in us, if we have the wisdom of Christ operating in us, what then is our problem? That the children of this world are wiser in their generation than the sons of light. I think I know the major problem. The major problem is the perception of the saints of God about the word shrewd. A cursory look at this word can invoke a negative connotation. It is sometimes used to describe someone who is sharp and intelligent, but potentially underhanded at the same time. Examples of this negative term of the word shrewd, give it to me, please, in the New American Standard Bible. If you have it, thank you. Now it was after this that Absalom, the son of David, had a beautiful sister whose name was Tamar. And Amnon, the son of David, was in love with her. No, he was lusting after her. But Amnon was so frustrated on account of his sister Tamar that he made himself ill, for she was a virgin. And it seemed too difficult to Amnon to do anything to her. But Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shimeah, David's brother, and Jonadab was a very clever man. In another interpretation, he said he was a very crafty man. That's NKJV. But in one of the, I think it's New American Standard Bible, he said he was a shrewd man. Look for it for me. He was a shrewd man, shrewd. That's a negative connotation. Job 5:12. Job chapter 5 verse 12. He frustrated the schemes of the shrewd so that their hands cannot attain success. Psalm 83, verse 1 to 3. Psalm 83, 1 to 3. God, do not remain quiet. Do not be silent. God, do not remain quiet. Do not be silent. For behold, your enemies make an uproar, and those who hate you have exalted themselves. Verse 3. They make shrewd plans against your people and conspire together against your treasured ones. Isaiah 5, 20, 21. In the Amplified Version, woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe to those who are wise in their own eyes and prudent and shrewd in their own sight. When you read those things, you say, the children of this world are shrewd. We are not supposed to be shrewd. Far, far, far. I can't hear you. Far, the Lord has made. Genesis 3:1. Now the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, as God indeed said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden. You know the rest. But listen to me. If the word shrewd is completely negative, the Lord would not have said to his disciples to be as shrewd or wise as the serpents and gentle as the doves. Matthew chapter 10, verse 16. Matthew 10, 16. New American Standard Bible will show you the word shrewd there. Matthew 10, verse 16. Behold, I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. Therefore be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Give it to me in the New American Standard Bible. So be as wary as serpents. That's not what I'm looking for. He uses the word shrewd. Be as shrewd as a serpent and as gentle as a dove. Do you know you are considered shrewd, brothers and sisters, not to take a job or a reward now if there is possibility of getting a better one sooner than later? You will also be considered a shrewd move if you buy your house just before property prices start to rise. Consequently, the Lord expects us to be as shrewd or as wise as a serpent and gentle or harmless as a dove. He does not expect the sons of this world to be more shrewd or wiser in their generation than us, the sons of light. Look at Psalm 18, verse 26 in NIV. Psalm 18, verse 26. To the pure, you show yourself pure, but to the devious, you show yourself shrewd. That's God. With these positive connotations of the word shrewd, we can then conclude that the way we function in this world as sons of light must be drastically different and better than the way the sons of this world operate. Ephesians 5, 8 to 14. For you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness, righteousness, and truth, finding out what is acceptable to the Lord. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. For it is shameful even to speak of those things which are done by them in secret. But all things that are exposed are made manifest by the light. For whatever makes manifest is what? Light. Therefore it says, awake you who sleep, arise from the dead, and Christ will give you light. Romans 8, or Romans 13, I beg your pardon. Romans 13, 8 to 14. Romans 13, 8 to 14. Owe no one anything except to love one another. For he who loves another has fulfilled the law. For the commandments, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness, you shall not covet. And if there's any other commandment, are all sum up in this saying, namely, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no harm to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfillment of the law. In conclusion, to live in Zion and sons of light, right in the midst of Babylon, is to be cognizant of the truth that though we are in the world, we are not of the world. This is the main reason Jesus prayed for his disciples not to be taken out of the world, but to be kept from the evil one. What an amazing time we just had in the presence of God. I hope you are richly blessed. My heartfelt desire is that you may light up your word with the illumination you have just received. May the immeasurable grace of God empower you to act on what you've heard and to walk in the revealed counsel of God. Always remember that it takes a transformed life to transform a family, a society, or a nation. So let God do his work in you so that he can do his work through you. And as you proceed on this journey of destiny, remember that our ultimate destination is God. I pray that God's footprint will become your pathway and that your path will be as a shining light that shines brighter and brighter to a perfect day. Till we meet again next week, remain sandwiched between the peace of God and the God of peace. Have an amazing week. Bye for now. Shalom.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Here are success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
Today, on the Justice Court, the plaintiff, Josephine Abimbola Akinriola, is asking the court to compel her husband to be responsible for the upkeep of their children.
Previously on the Justice Court.
I met Ayola during my service here as a youth corper.
When was that?
That was in 2005. Because I'm an SS patient, I usually get I'm always very careful before going into any relationship. So at that time I was going to 26 years. So then later I gave in to his request.
We met quite all right, and I liked her. That's one thing with me. If I like someone, I talk to the person. It's a free word. I spoke to her, and she said, okay. That was it. Yes, I went to Unilag. I was in the union. Unionism, Olusegun Mayegun, Red Drum. I'm sure a lot of people know him. I was in his cabinet. And we do unionism. I can mention all their names, if I give all of them. We were there together. We were prosecuted. Unilag 47, it was in the newspapers. Femi Falana was our lawyer. No court issue.
I'm aware of that issue. Move ahead.
Thank you, ma. Thank you, Your Honor. So after that, instead of waiting endlessly I went to UI. Sometimes when I was in my third level, I witnessed something in the night because I like to go out and drink. I was coming back to my lodge because I don't stay in the room. I was past staying with those young guys then. So I have my own personal BQ. I was coming, I saw something. A girl was being raped and she was molested and she was killed. I saw everything in the daytime. I went to Songo police station. Alhaji Hazam Mohammed was the DPO then. That was my biggest mistake in life. That ruined everything for me. To ruin me. I told him, and they got them arrested. One of those guys, the father was a minister. One thing led to the other. Some police gave them my information. That was why I left there for my life. I was not pursued. I was not respected. That was how UI ended. So now I was at home, doing nothing. That was a period I met her, because all these things I told her. That was a period I met her. But I did not go into details with her. But of course, because she was to line me, she said courtism. That one is. So those are the two instances. Eventually, I finished at UNN. No encouragement. The person that hates you and come out in the morning and start course, why would the person encourage you? But anyway, I have this luck. When I went there, truly, because then I just left UI. I had nothing, and I had to put something together to get back on my feet. So I applied for that job. And when I applied for the job, they gave me a protocol officer position, because there was this guy, I didn't know then when I was doing the interview, there was this guy that knows Mayegun and knew me when I was in Unilag, and he was telling the senior manager admin that this guy is brilliant. What is he doing here? This one driver. I don't know. We told him a little about me. So the admin man took me aside and finished with the rest. Then they now put me in the protocol. So from there, I went to head protocol straight. So I didn't know why.
You went to where?
I went to head protocol, the protocol unit.
Okay.
So I didn't know what happened until later when I got to know this was what happened. So then I remember they gave me, because I was attacked during, there was a time we went to pick Madame at the airport around 2 a.m. and I was attacked when I was going because I had no vehicle, nothing. So when I got to my area, I was stabbed in the armpit and it was beginning to smell. So there was a time I was trying to treat it, but I didn't have enough money. And the MD was like, what is smelling? What's that nasty smell? And they said it was me. She asked me what happened. I told them, he said, okay, going forward, give him a place at Bodilon Drive, give him a car to drive. She made everything easy for me. And I mean, that was the beginning of a good time. So I was now I was a low-level class staff, mixing with the high-level class one, because they were all staying in that guest house, all my guys, AGM, GM, and so on and so forth. So she likes to come down there. And when she comes down, I like to show her off. I mean, she's a senior banking official, and then I'm dating her. So I like to feel this is the only way I could feel belong among them. That okay, fine. But I noticed she was even worse than I was, because she was like, what is your problem? Why are you feeling so? Stand up. You can speak very well. You look nice. What's your... And I noticed this wasn't working well. And me, I'm outspoken. I'm not a violent person. I will say it. This is a national TV or broadcasting, whatever. I will say it. If there's a lady in this world that I have ever raised my hand on, she should come out, sue me, and put me in jail. I can say proudly, I have never raised my hand against a lady before in my life. Even my kids, my daughters, I don't raise my hand to beat them. I can beat my chest on that. So that's that. I'm proud of that. So when I felt like, you're even bringing me down. I called. I was driving out because I had a nice car, and they made sure of that. So I was going and say, look, I don't like the way you. I said maybe we need to give ourselves some space. She said, why? I said, because the way you behave.
That was before you had Jadesola.
Before we had Jadesola, she wasn't pregnant then. But I made a mistake. That is why it's not good to tell ladies some secrets. I told her one thing about us in my household. When a lady gets pregnant for us, even if she's handicapped, even if she's blind, you marry her. That is my father's stand. I have said that long ago. I told her that when we were just starting. Maybe it was because I was in love then. I shouldn't have said that. So when we're going, I told her, maybe we need to give ourselves some space. This is strictly not going to work. Honestly, I told her that. We were on Third Milan Bridge. He said, what happened? I explained to her. You're always looking to me. Why? What's scaring you when you're with people? These people are not bigger than you. If I can stand there and look them in the face, what's your own? So I dropped her at her auntie's place at Faster. And I came back. And that was that. I came back and said, look, I'm over with that. For some months, she didn't call. I was very happy. I moved on with my life. So obviously, maybe she had discussed that with one of her friends. This is where the problem starts from. And she thought she was smart. She came back one night, and she wanted to jump the fence of the guest house. We had a security guard then called Martins. He was our security. She was beaten by the rain for close to 3 hours outside. I told Martins, don't open the gate for her. She is a sex freak, and I will tell you, I will prove it to you now. At the end of the day, Martins came back to me and told me, okay, let her come now. It was that night that she got pregnant. Then she left again for another.
That's the night you did.
That was yes.
The night you did virgin there.
No, that was not the. She has.
Are you the one that is virgin?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I acknowledge that.
Okay. All right.
So she left.
You know why I asked that? I'm just wondering where that allegation of sex freak came up.
I will bring it. You will see it. You will see it. Don't worry. No problem. I will be brief. I told you I will be brief. I will not speak so long. But you will see where it comes from. So Martins came to me, and she left for about a month or so, maybe 2 months. Then she called. Immediately she called me. Immediately I saw her call, I wasn't happy because I didn't want to hear from her. I thought she had left. So the first thing I told her was, look, I'm already engaged. I'm getting married to someone else. Then the next thing that came back from my mouth was like, I'm pregnant. And that was where my problem started from. She called. After that,
she was actually pregnant.
She was actually pregnant. She was ovulating, probably, because I don't know, when she came that night. And that was what she came to do, and she left. Thinking, if somebody to get pregnant in your house, that person cannot go, you must marry that person. So anyway, I started. I now went to...
I'm a bit confused there. Because before then, the two of you already met.
We have met. We have been meeting for a long time. That was why I told you.
So, repetition came in later, right? You repeated it.
Yes.
Again later.
Once. And that once turned into pregnancy. What has not turned into pregnancy for...
Well, nobody, is it by our own making?
No, I'm not saying it's by our own making. Right. I'm just saying that all of a sudden that particular once turned into... And I don't mind. So I made another stupid mistake. Because I had a pure heart. I see no reason why. So I went to her parents when she was pregnant. Contrary to what she said that I was denying. Because I was looking at when she later said, okay, I did not deny. I actually went to her parents. And that was another mistake. That was my biggest mistake. And told them that, okay, I'm responsible for this pregnancy.
How is that a mistake?
You get to find out.
But that's your child, right?
Yes, it's my child. It wasn't.
What's the mistake in acknowledging that child is yours?
You will say the mistake.
Okay.
I said, this child she's carrying, I'm responsible for it too. But since I don't love her anymore, I'm not going to marry her. That was the mistake.
Where is the mistake
The
then?
mistake where I said, I'm not going to marry her. I will take care of the child, I will take care of her, but I'm not going to marry her.
Okay.
So later on, when I told somebody that was older, because it was a very big problem for me. Because the mother was like, so you came here to insult me to my face. You said you got my daughter pregnant and you're not going to marry her. Okay, fine. Let's see now. So later on, when I was having issues, because I don't believe anybody here in this courtroom will believe fetish things. When I can't tell you that I saw somebody sitting on my head from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. every morning, every night, and I see the person's face, and you are telling me I don't know who the person is. You know. So I started having issues. So I went to someone that was older than me. I said, "This is what is going on." I said, "Okay, what did you do to the woman?" I said, "I didn't do anything now. Fine, I got her daughter pregnant." And I told them that I will be taking care of her. And I've been taking care of the daughter. And when she gets, when she gives birth, I will take care of the child. So you got somebody's daughter. If it's you, and they got your daughter pregnant, and they came to tell you your house, that they got your daughter pregnant, I will not marry her, will you be laughing? That was when I knew I made a mistake. But after that, things started happening. For example, she said she has been supportive. She took one of my friends. You know, I said I was a chief protocol officer, and Madam had a lot of influential people coming in and going. That was why I met a lot of influential people. And she got hold of my phone, and a lot of these influential people became my influential enemies. They don't want to hear me call again. That was why I said I will let you know why all my brothers blocked her. None of them now. If you go to her Facebook account, they've all blocked her. She used that to start sending all sorts of. It was on this same account that she sent that she started telling my friends that I have died. They were upset. Why would they not call me? Why would they be saying this kind of thing? So I have to go and block that account because she was using my account to send these messages. Let's rewind a little bit to her boss that she said she called me. One day the boss called me, and I went to go and meet her. And she said, this is why I can never stay with her in the same room. I have never touched her. But there's no way in this world or the next to come that I can stay with her or have anything to do with her. I will tell you what. When her boss saw me, her boss said, but you don't look like the kind of person. You don't look like a rapist. I said, me. We can call her now and confirm it. Because we still talk. We still converse. I said, me. Why would I do a thing like that? I can snap my finger and get a girlfriend. Why would I go and rape? Besides, she says, who gave it? Where did you come about that? And she told me that she was a virgin and you raped her, you disvirgined her through rape. I said, me. She was downstairs. Even if you don't call her openly now, I will still give you her number. You call and confirm. At least you can confirm and know whether I'm speaking the truth. She now sent someone. She now took her intercom and called her up. She said, I should sit down. I want to see who is lying. So she called her and she came. When she came, she sat down and she said, repeat what you said. What did you say happened to you that this man did to you? She was looking. She didn't say anything. She now said it that no, I was the one that said it. When did I rape you? You will be jumping over the fence to come and have sex. Somebody will now be raping you. I now take my phone. I now called Martins. You will confirm Martins, the issue of Martins with her. Because I called. I now called Martins. I now put it on speaker. I say, Martins, Alpha, I get one of my friends there. I tell her about that girl where they come, they meet me for that where they work for bank. He said, okay, that Ashi. That was the first thing he said. I said, hey, why you call her Ashi? I said, oh God, that one, he liked that thing. He said it.
This was before You had.
Before the twins. I just want to.
You already had a child then.
Oh, we of course.
You already had a child. So you already when you were married then.
No, we're not yet married.
Oh, you already had Jadesola.
We already had Jadesola.
Okay.
So he now told. So immediately, Martin said that on the speaker she had it herself. I was now looking at the woman. Okay. So she did not say anything throughout. Her boss now said, okay, you can go back. I will give you the number of her boss so you can confirm directly from her whether it is true. If she wants to be honest, she will confirm it. That was how she left. So when she left, I now told her boss that, okay, now it was her mother's issue I was still having. You are going about telling people that I raped you and disvirgined you. You got pregnant and now go and tell your parents. After raping her, she got pregnant and now telling her parents I will not marry her again. If the person have witchcraft, will he not use it against me? Even if it's more than, and she will tell all her friends. If you can tell her boss, she will tell everybody. That was when I got pregnant. This woman can actually kill me. Because I know that it's a lie. Even if it's true. Told them, what you doing for me? Do you know I will marry you? Spreading that kind of thing will destroy me. You can go to the police, fine. Police is okay. But do you know the kind of person you are telling that kind of information to? And it's a lie. That was when I decided in my mind that I wasn't going to have anything to do with her. But I was going to take care of that child. But that was just the beginning of my problems. Now, let me go to the hospital quickly. Let me just briefly go to the hospital.
We're talking about the twins now.
Yes. When the twins got, as I'm remembering, I'll just touch it one by one. She and her mom.
How many years after you had Jadesola?
I think.
You can come in. You should know the gap.
It was 3 years after Jadesola that he came begging.
All right then. Okay.
So we did the introduction.
So and is that third year that you conceived?
Fourth year I gave birth to the.
You conceived that year.
Okay.
All right then.
Of course, she knew that I'm not the father. When I was at the hospital, when I met the doctor, the second time they went there, after they have had the child, after 3 days of having the child, they now called me that your wife has given birth. I went there. I was the one that paid the bill. And when I was paying the bill, I was upset. I decided to do something. Because the first time she said she gave birth to Jadesola, they charged me 150,000. I was now like, I know private hospital. I follow my friends around now. Even private don't charge 150 as of 2009. General now charge. I will look into it. I didn't say anything that time. I paid 128 that time through my nose, and they collected this. When I now asked them for the receipt, okay, give me the receipt for the 128 I gave. They now started giving me receipt of when she was, all the times she was going to antenatal. This is not the receipt I asked you for. Give me the receipt of 128,000. That was why I decided to investigate the second one.
The defendant, Ayola Akinriola, denied some of the allegations levied by his wife. He claims that his wife inflated hospital bills for child delivery and extorted him through those payments. Ayola alleges that his wife's moving from hospital after the birth of the twins back to her parents' house without his consent is an insult to his person. He also disputes the paternity of the twins.
I paid for the bill for the twins. So I now went to a nurse. I said, please, madam, if a lady, if you give birth here, what is the normal charge? He said it's 20,000, but if it's cesarean, it's 25. Say, but because
incubator.
We have not added. We are talking about actual
delivery.
Delivery.
Okay, that's CS.
Yes, and this particular day, the money I gave to them at once, she's here, was 120 cash.
Now I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
Because it needs clarification. And if that day you were paying, were you told that that's just for the cesarean, or includes the period that the children were in the incubator up till the point in time when you were making payment?
They told me it was just for the delivery. It was the amount she told me, the 20,000 naira.
No, I'm talking about the total sum that you paid.
I gave, because see, when I got there, they told me this time, I think what they told me was about 200,000 naira, whatever. I don't know them.
Okay.
But I gave them cash.
Only for the delivery only?
Yes.
Out of everything?
Yes, I gave them 120.
So you paid out of the bill?
No. I paid the full bill. The delivery alone.
Calm down. And listen.
So I gave it to you. Your mother was sitting with you.
dying. I was dying.
I was coming back to that.
No, just a minute.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not you that made the payment.
No,
All right, then.
after giving her the money, she was now telling me that this is not everything. That the delivery is not yet complete. And that they are still going to pay for this, they are still going to pay for that. So I became upset. And I remember the last time that they scammed me, she and her mother. So I decided to investigate. If she had collected the money and had not told me that, we will still have to make payment for this and that, I probably would have just kept quiet. But she told me there are still some things they were going to make payment for. And this time around, I wanted to be sure. So I gave her the money. She didn't know I was going to investigate, so I went. Unfortunately, the nurses there, because I embarrassed her and her mother, she said she was recovering, she was dying. She wasn't dying because she insulted me that day. Somebody that is dying, that is still shouting and insulting somebody. So I went and inquired. I made inquiry outside at the reception where those nurses were. Then I came back where she was. And I told her, you told me so amount. The time of that, this was what she said. So she said, I'm shouting on her mother, that I'm talking down on her mother. I said, if your mother could be stealing, I should be able to talk down on her now. I mean, so that was what happened then. So I gave them the cash, like I always do, and they collect. See, most of the time now, normally I'm supposed to come out here now and say, this is my statement. And then we check most of it. And that was why she told, she first said, perfect liar, that I don't give anything. I only give 2,000, 3,000. But I now reminded her, I say, go to court. I go and print my statement from 2009.
You have it here?
I didn't bring it. I all these things I will get. It's not yet time for me to get it. I will get, because I still believe it's a win-win situation for me anyway.
You know what? You see, courts operate with evidence.
I know. I have some.
So it's not just about what you say. Because the minute you said now, I eagerly asked you, you have something to prove.
I have something.
And the minute you
I have
said
something,
no,
but I have not
push it aside, okay?
Not gotten to this. So that was when she now changed her mind now. That she now saying that, okay, once in a while he brings stuff. Before she would tell me I don't do anything at all. That's what she tells people. But because I reminded her and she knows that is truly an evidence, she changed her mind. So from the hospital, I told her, what are the plans? She said that she cannot, that she needs care. That she's SSC, this and that. I said, look, if you need care, come to the house. Whoever is going to take care of you will come and take care of these kids in the house with you. I have never had in my life where somebody will give birth and from the hospital will move straight to her parents' house. I said, I have never had that. And I said, if you move from this place to your parents' house, I will not come and see you. I don't know. It means you are married to your parents. And I left because I was upset about the money. The money is what I found out.
That's why you reacted that way.
Yes. So I left. I went home thinking she would come. Later on, I found out she has left the hospital. She went to her father's house. I didn't see anything.
That same day?
No, not that same day.
Which day?
Not that same day.
When did she leave the hospital?
I think the following week or so.
Following week. Did you check her in between the week?
No, I did not. I did not check her. I did not check her because I was waiting for her mother was always there 24/7. So I was waiting for her to come back home. Now, her mother was always there. And I don't get along well with the mom. But for the sake of the kids, I was willing to make an exception. So I told her, come, bring the children home. I was confident. I have never raised any hand at you. So this one that says I beat her, it's her against her own word. So I went. And later on, I found out, no, it wasn't following week. It was the third day she went home. It was the third day she went home. The same nurse that told me that they paid 40,000 naira because he said if it's one person, delivery for one person is 20,000. But since they were two, it's supposed to be 25,000 per person now. Normal delivery is 20,000. Cesarean is 25,000 per person. But because they were two, they collected 40,000 for the cesarean for the two.
Okay.
Not inclusive of the days they will spend there after the operation. Okay. That was when I found out she had left. I didn't see anything. 3 months later, 3 months and some days later, her father called me. I remember very, very well. I'm sure he will not deny that one. He called me himself. And he said, you surprised me. Oh. I said, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. What did I do? He said, all these months. He said, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. Your children are here. And you did not even bother to come and check your children. Allow him to speak because He's an elderly man. I don't want to be disrespectful. I said, Daddy, have you finished? Yes. I said, please, if you were not an older man, the way I would have answered you would have been different because I was really upset. You have a son, and he's married, he has kids. I said, sir, did your son go to his in-laws' place to go and visit his children and wife? That was the exact question I asked the man, and he will confirm it. That was his question, and he kept quiet. He said it was your wife that called me and asked me whether she could bring the children here. She needs care, proper care, and all those stuff. And I said, thank you, sir, for the feedback. I said, but for me, if my wife, my child, my daughter, should bring her children after putting to bed to my house, I said, I will say you should wait, sit down with children. I'll pick up my phone, I will call her husband. My friend, your wife is coming to my house. What is she coming to do in my house? She's coming to look for care. Then you should have told me, this is not a daycare. That was what I was telling the man, her father. That's exactly what I told him. I said, even if my wife is bringing my children to you, you should have at least, my friend, what is going on now? I'm the one that will beg you that day, Joe. Come on, let this lady come with the children. They need care. I'm the one that should beg you. He said, okay. I'm sorry about that. You have a point there. But what do we do about it? I said, we don't do anything. Please, sir, don't call my line again. Yes, I told him that. With all due respect. I added that one. With all due respect. Don't call my line again. This is an insult on my person. I didn't ask her to come there. I asked her to come to the house. Anybody that wants to come and say, the man called the call. And that was that. I didn't say anything.
This matter is unfolding as Judge Fumi continues the cross-examination in the next episode.
If your baby daddy is denying paternity of the child to avoid upkeep, or you suspect misattributed paternity situations, submit your case online at www.thejusticescourt.com for a prompt resolution of the matter.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
60 Minutes with Angela starts right now.
Executive Vice Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, Babatunde Irukera, joins me on the program today. Start with one of the complaints about your commission, the slow reaction of the commission to complaints from the public. I mean, people saying that they're sending petitions, but they don't receive any response, and sometimes no updates at all. A lot of complaints about time. So people go online, file the complaint, they get the tracking number, but they don't get the feedback from the commission. What is your response to that?
I think generalizing response complaint is not entirely accurate. In the first place, the vast majority of lack of response that we receive as complaints are tweets, and mostly by people who would say, I tagged you on a tweet, or I slid into your DM. First, there are tweets that are addressed to us, and then there are multiple thousand more where we're just tagged. And so resource allocation, like anybody else, would be to focus on what has come to you. And so if you're complaining to MTN's technical support and tagging us, the first expectation is MTN would sort the problem out. So imagine if we were both opening tickets to fix the same problem. It's not efficient, and we don't have that type of resource. And so significant, by far the vast majority of the feedback we've gotten about people who say, oh, you didn't respond to me, would be that, and we say, how, when did this happen? So, well, I tagged you. And then the next category, I sent you an email, and that email goes to a contact FCCPC email address, which is catch-all. Many people think that is a complaint portal. It's not. It receives all kinds of things, intel, even spam, junk, adverts, all kinds of things. Indeed, you're right that there are a few number of people who would say that even though they went on the appropriate CRM, which is the complaints resolution mechanism on our website or through the app, and say that they haven't received a timely response. And those would be the ones to say that, well, they do have a case ID, it's been ticketed, but they just haven't received the response. The way this thing works is that we're not sitting here and just literally determining what happens in each case. At the end of the day, the real resolutor of a complaint is the provider. And we don't have a warehouse or inventory of the things people are displeased with. And so the first thing is to engage. And what we've done is we engage the providers with the dissatisfaction of a consumer. Many times the provider quickly addresses the issue, agrees on the results. Sometimes the provider even disputes the issue, in which case there's some back and forth before you come to a resolution. And even in that back and forth, and so there are different buckets for that. Another reason sometimes for the delay is complaint resolution platform is something we created ourselves at our own cost. And over the years of using it, we've been able to onboard many companies. So the usual suspects are all onboarded, meaning that we give them a spur for them to plug in. For the companies that are on the platform, when the complaints come, we're able to quickly push out to them and say, we're waiting your response on this, and we're able to monitor that. But some of the complaints are against companies that are not on the platform. And so we're going to have to manually write the snail mail, use a courier to send it to them. They would manually respond. And so that takes time. And for those ones that are not on the platform, we don't have full visibility other than manual follow-up. For the ones on the platform, we have a dashboard. And so we can see what's going on and we can intervene if we think it's taking time, or we can take it over by ourselves. And so for the ones that are not, we just have to keep engaging. And you might ask, then in that case, why don't you have all the companies? It's not practicable to have all the companies.
Can you mandate companies to join the platform because it's a consumer issue?
We will get there, but it's also a tricky issue because there's a cost associated, not to us, but to the company. Some of the companies are in business, they're small businesses, they don't have that whole infrastructure or technological apparatus to even be able to plug in to a system where the integration would work. And so it will take time for us to be able to get to a point where we can mandate companies of a certain cadre. Because what we want is to impose an obligation on companies to resolve the complaints, not impose an additional cost, which could end up hitting the consumers. More and more companies also is a cost implication for us because there's a scaling up and we have to continue to allocate resources to expanding the technology to scale up for the shared traffic that comes with that.
All right, so I'm taking you back now to July this year, 2023. The elevator malfunction at a general hospital in Lagos, which resulted in a downward crash and the death of a female doctor who was undergoing, I understand, housemanship. What is your commission doing about that? You know, it's very worrisome that it appears that when events like this happen, we never really see the conclusion or the completion. You know, is it possible that your commission can hold someone responsible for that incident?
The nature of our work sometimes is catalyzing others to do things or improve systems or processes. So it's not every investigation that means there's a bunch of documents, a stack of information coming to the FCCPC, people sitting in hearings. Sometimes our investigation is just to even look at processes and assist other entities, especially government bodies, to optimize their own oversight. And for instance, in the example you make, we issued a joint statement with LASCOPA, which is the Lagos State Consumer Protection Agency. It would be duplicitous for us to keep an open file when we have a sister agency in the state working on it. And the state itself, including the governor, immediately took control of the process, identified the company, blacklisted the company, consequences for even the internal folks who are supposed to be responsible for monitoring. And so our role is to make sure that is happening and to monitor how that ends, to see if new SOPs with respect to, for instance, elevator installers and elevator maintenance and periodic checks. And so our own quality control of that is when I'm in Lagos, if I'm in an elevator, I'm looking at the elevator to see if there's now a sign that says last service on this day, and when the next service is. So that's our own surveillance to make sure that we're protecting people through the work of others. We've seen some process modifications that Lagos State has initiated, including transferring some of the responsibilities into a more integrated system where a facility manager is responsible to the installers and outside contractors are now responsible to a resident facility manager for public offices where you have things like elevators or other equipment that are supposed to ease the life of consumers, but they can also potentially be dangerous.
Because it's very scary. You know, in most of the hospitals, for instance, after surgery, people are moved through the elevators from theatre down to the wards. Yes. And, you know, I can't even begin to fathom if that sort of thing happens with, you know, someone coming out of surgery.
I think that was an extremely unfortunate accident, and it's one of those accidents where globally it was needless and avoidable. Nigeria not being an exclusion, but we should be grateful that there were not many fatalities at the end of the day. Very sad loss to the country, to the family, to the government of Lagos State. But we should still be grateful.
Will anyone be held accountable?
Well, there's already an accountability framework that has kicked in. For instance, that business is not going to be able to do that type of work for perhaps an important client.
Again, yes.
And that blacklisting for any responsible private business would obviously be concerned.
Yes.
I mean, if I were a large building contractor and I have a contract to build a high-rise, I'll be very concerned about engaging that particular contractor to install the elevator. So there are already consequences. With respect to remedies for the injury sustained, the FCCPC is not the only, in fact, perhaps not even the primary mechanism for those types of remedies. There's tort law, there's rights to sue. We have an equivalent agency in Lagos State that is seized with that. And so our role here now is monitoring. And in the event that a resolution at the administrative level is unsatisfactory to a party, maybe the family of the deceased doctor, and they come to the FCCPC, would see there's still an administrative role we can play in ensuring a fair outcome. And of course, there's still the court system, which I believe is still the final arbiter anyway.
So we move now to the Federal Capital Territory, where we are in Maitama General Hospital. The Commission has begun a probe of the hospital for allegedly rejecting a lady who needed medical intervention after an incident where I think she was thrown out of a moving bus. They say that they rejected her for treatment at the hospital, resulting in loss of life. What are the salient facts that you can share with us regarding that case?
What we know so far from the information we've gathered is Miss Greatness Olorun Femi was a victim of criminal conduct. She is otherwise known as One Chance. We've seen evidence that she was, first of all, physically assaulted. The evidence of physical injury on her body, and she also sustained additional physical injury when she was purportedly thrown out of a moving vehicle. I think that those facts are well established. There is evidence that she was transported by Good Samaritans to the Maitama District Hospital, which is a public institution. There's evidence that there was some interaction there. And there's evidence that that's where she was declared deceased. There's evidence that the Federal Capital Territory, through the Office of the Secretary for Health and the Environment, got involved very quickly, and there's been some initial investigation based on its oversight and supervision of the public institution. There's evidence that there are others who have gotten involved, including the Leadership Association and the Personnel Management Association that Ms. Oluwafemi belonged to, who have also engaged in some information gathering at Maitama District Hospital. There's evidence that the police has opened an investigation also, and all of this evidence comes together. The mandate secretary for the Federal Capital Territories Secretariat for Health Services and the Environment issued a statement and noting that they were engaging with the FCCPC. We've since discovered that they've opened up a probe and there's a panel, and the FCCPC will be participating on that panel. We understand that there's been some discussion about an autopsy and then coroner's inquest. The FCCPC will participate in all of that. And so there's some leadership for key elements of all the relevant issues with respect to this incident. And so what the FCCPC will be doing is participating in all of this to ensure that, one, the key responsibilities of each of the entities conducting those investigations, they follow through that. And then secondly, what are really the key mandate and responsibilities from an FCCPC standpoint that might not be the subject of responsibility by those other entities. We bring it to that table to make sure that ultimately it's a very robust investigation and all the issues are addressed. It serves no purpose for multiple investigations to be going except in some very limited circumstances. This doesn't present one of those circumstances in our opinion with what we've seen. But if for any reason the totality of an existing investigation in terms of reference will not sufficiently address what is important to us, we will do a different investigation, which will at best be supplementary. But the fact that we will be participating in an investigation is already sufficient evidence that what is important to us will be addressed in that investigation.
That brings me to the main point for the question, which I would like you to clarify. Is there any law that prevents a suspect or an accused person from receiving medical treatment even if he or she is a suspect in an armed robbery case?
Absolutely. There's a Victims of Crimes Act that was passed in 2017. The Healthcare Act states that, and in addition to hard law, which is this pieces of legislation, there are all kinds of protocols, including the Patient's Bill of Rights, which is something that was created by the FCCPC in collaboration with many stakeholders, professional associations in healthcare, the Ministry of Health, and it clearly states that. And the Patient's Bill of Health is something that has been domesticated in many hospitals across the country and was adopted by the federal government. And so there are more than enough instruments to hold anybody accountable, to at least make it abundantly clear that the requirement for emergency medical intervention is superior to any law enforcement investigation into the circumstances that led to injury. Even when it's a perpetrator of a crime that is brought to a hospital, there is an obligation for emergency intervention to save lives.
Because you really want to treat the perpetrator so that he can be punished later on. I mean, there's this perception that because he's an armed robber, he doesn't deserve treatment. I don't know if that's the perception you get too from what we read in the papers.
First, having a perpetrator alive is an important aspect of credible and successful investigation. And secondly, as a matter of law, you don't know for sure what bucket that person who's been injured would fall into. I mean, determining that someone committed a crime is a legal conclusion that follows very, for non-lawyers, a complicated, pretty broad process.
Yes.
And so you must proceed from that assumption that somebody is injured. We do not know for sure what the criminal status would ultimately be or not. And so everybody deserves emergency medical attention.
Join us again after the break. Welcome back. And I'm glad you mentioned the Patient's Bill of Rights. What should every Nigerian know about this bill?
Well, every Nigerian should know that all the rights iterated in the Patient's Bill of Rights are an obligation that is owed between the patient and healthcare facilities. And that the Patient's Bill of Rights is not just one document that spells out the obligations both ways, but it's an aggregation. So at itself, it identifies the parameters of the interactions between healthcare providers and the patients, but it also is an aggregation. Each of those rights there, it's aggregation of each right that exists in other instruments, whether ethical codes, law, decided cases, legislation, subsidiary legislation or regulations. So it's not aspirational, it's not CSR, it's not a corporate social responsibility, it's mandatory obligations. However, the Patient's Bill of Rights also has some obligations for patients and their families also. Some of the experiences healthcare providers have had with respect to injury and even their own security in the place of work has been aggression or violence by patients or their families. And so there are obligations for patients and users of the families also in the Patient's Bill of Rights. And even though there are rights that say that emergency intervention must be provided without delay, there are also obligations on the patients that as soon as possible make arrangements to pay for the care you have received. So the Patient Bill of Rights is actually a balanced aggregation that secures patients, other users, their families, healthcare workers, for instance, even visitation rights. Because how one patient or families or friends of one patient behaves could impact the security, the safety, the satisfaction, the peace, and the comfort of another patient. And so all of these things come in the illustrated version of the Patient's Bill of Rights.
The Bill of Rights is displayed in the hospitals that have domesticated it.
Yes.
Will it be mandatory for every hospital, whether private or public, to domesticate this bill?
It is not mandatory at this point.
Yes.
There are many competing interests and questions, legal some of them, on whether you can make that mandatory, including the nature of government, the dichotomy between state and federal government, and what the constitutional provisions are about the role of the state, the local government, and the federal government, and what it can mandate and not mandate. But I think the traction that domestication is gaining would lead us to a point where we can build consensus between the federal, the state, and the local government, where we might be able to have some guidance that cascades all the way down to make it more compelling that the vast majority of healthcare facilities have it. One of the things we've discovered with the Patient Bill of Rights is that what we're now doing with domestication is that wherever we go for domestication, we go with a team. So the domestication is not just a ribbon or tape cutting event, it's now a training event. Because we're discovering that sometimes some people in the healthcare providing side are learning of these rights at the same time the patients are learning. And I'm not necessarily talking about the physicians, but other people who are in that value chain. The security personnel, and there are all kinds, even other types of healthcare professionals who their roles are critical to the fullest respect for the rights of the patient who are not aware of those rights.
I want to talk about loan applications now, and the Commission banning some and approving some. I was surprised to find that over 154 companies have been granted full approval. That's what it says on your website, which tells me that, is it that some may have provisional approval? Are there some with provisional and some with full? And what's the difference?
And so some apps are approved conditionally because they've complied with all the requirements as a matter of principle, but awaiting other approvals from other regulatory authorities, which is more a matter of administrative. So for instance, if your software has been analyzed and the security is fine, but you are awaiting the administrative write-up of that, and we have that evidence from the other regulator, then you have a conditional approval. And so to the extent anything that is not necessarily within the control of the applicant, if they've done everything within their control to be able to operate safely, then they could secure a conditional approval. Otherwise, full approval means everything has been checked out. Now, our approval is not a license as sector regulators issue licenses. So it's not a license like NCC would issue a license to telecommunications companies, or CBN issue a license to banks, or NERC issue a license to electricity companies, or NCA to airlines. Our approval is to check certain elements or parameters of consumer protection. One, that you have a policy that prohibits inappropriate loan recovery or balance repayment methods, which is critical, and that you have a framework, a feedback framework, for your customers to even reach you and dispute whether it's a loan balance or whatever. Two, that the technology you're using now prohibits access to people's private information. 3, that the data management regulator is satisfied with your data policies, your storage mechanisms, your gathering mechanism, and your policy with respect to sharing and transfer. So that's not anything we do. You get that satisfaction from the Nigerian Data Protection Commission. Your software is not something we look at. That's for NIDDA to look at. Then you assure us that you do not compound interest. Now, with respect to the interest on your loan, we're not a prudential regulator.
Yes.
We do not have the expertise to manage interest rates. And so, essentially what we're saying is that the basic principles of fairness and ethics in lending, you've either made declarations to comply with that, or you've shown us material that shows you intend to comply with that. That's what our approval process is. And so people erroneously think that we have now become the regulator of the interest rates, the technology. No, we can't do that.
So since the Commission stepped in, has the Commission received reports of any more incidents of, those phone calls they make to friends of the person who lent money?
Yes. Now, I would say that that is probably from the successive interventions, starting, I want to say that was last year or maybe end of 2021 when we opened the investigation. Between then and now, I'd say this is reduced easily up to 90%. But there's still a 10% out there that we're battling and trying to resolve. I mean, it rose again about June, July, and then we engaged again and developed additional regulatory tools.
Yes. What caused it to rise again?
Several things. One of the things that the macroeconomic factors always increase borrowing, and so the very important policies that the government had to implement to rescue and even strengthen the economy, which the government has repeatedly said it recognizes, are hard decisions, had downstream effect on cash flow. So either it's a removal of subsidy or a closing of the multiple foreign exchange windows. They have downstream impact on disposable income. And so whenever disposable income becomes impacted, people are likely to borrow more. And then there was also what I think rogue businesses who had started figuring ways to get around the new regulatory framework. And that's globally typical. Over a period of time, rogue businesses will find the gaps in the regulatory framework. And what the regulator must do is also step up and plug those gaps. And so between now we've been able to plug more gaps. We've seen a reduction. We continue to work to keep reducing this.
I'm sure advocacy is one of the things that the Commission does. And that's what brings me to this topic now of the tomato mix matter. It would seem to me that there is a lacuna. Retailers who think that they're doing the consumer a favor and that you ought to be grateful that they're manufacturing anything at all. And then buyers who think that the customer is always right, irrespective of the unreasonableness of their demands or whatever. How can we reconcile these two positions?
I think the dynamics of managing a successful, profitable, enduring, and most importantly, responsible business actually address the different pieces of what you've said. Now, the customer is not always right, but is king. And so when you say the customer is king, it's more about how you treat the customer. It's not about taking the validity of what the customer says as correct. I mean, if someone says to me, adding 5 and 5 is 11, it doesn't matter what they're buying. That doesn't make it right. But if someone who I should defer to says to me, adding 5 and 5 is 11, there is a method in which I will approach the engagement. And so that's When they say the customer is king, it's about how you treat people. It's not about taking their word for value.
Yes.
That's a very important differentiation. And you're right. I think successive years of military rule has affected the mindset of people. And so it's not even just in retail. Generally, people who are paid to perform a service, even in government, feel that what they have is power.
Yes.
And so how they exercise that power, even for the benefit of the beneficiaries or the focus of the power, is a matter of benevolence for them. And that's not the case. I mean, any business that sells anything, the purpose of that business is created to sell that thing. If people don't buy it, there's no need for that business. And so for any business that does that, to conceptually in any way consider itself as doing a favor to the consumers hasn't passed the test that I said for a business to be profitable and enduring. You must be responsible. And if the business is irresponsible, it's only a question of time. It may be sooner, it may be later. It cannot endure. It just cannot endure. And consumers must have the liberty for feedback.
So it is not against the law for a consumer to give a review of a product that they've purchased.
Not only is it not against the law, businesses and we regulators beg, beyond encourage, consumers to provide that feedback. I traveled and arrived last week. I've gotten one email from the hotel I stayed and multiple emails for the different segments of my travel from the airline, asking me to review my experience. That feedback is one of the most important components of any robust consumer protection or rights enforcement framework. As a regulator, not only do we encourage it, we must protect that channel. Consumers must feel comfortable. And that's the reason why we responded strongly, that this could potentially chill the channel or diminish the channel or that platform. Secondly, it's important to businesses and to us as a regulator because that's where products come from. That's product development comes from feedback. Product modification and improvement comes from feedback. We as regulators have an interest in making sure product continue to be developed or improved for the satisfaction of consumers, because that's our business, right?
Yes.
Okay. And safety, all of that comes from that. And so it is one of the most important things, and businesses need it also. Regulators need it, businesses need it, consumers need it. And consumers need to help each other by reviewing products so that they can drive traffic to the good products, so the products that are not good can get better. That's really how it's a complete ecosystem where review is at the heart of it. And so not only must we encourage it, we owe an obligation to protect it.
I'm so happy you said that, because many people are confused about the role of the police in arresting someone who reviewed a product. I mean, when it's not a criminal case, and I know because you're a lawyer, you will understand what I'm saying. A person reviews something on social media and then the police are invited and the person is whisked away. Are there any remedies available to the reviewer who was so arrested?
I think we're not addressing the fundamentals of how society operates. I say this not now as a consumer protection regulator, as a lawyer and a litigator prior to this role. There is a court which is recognized as malicious prosecution.
Yes.
Okay. Now, malicious prosecution means something that is completely baseless. Now, malicious prosecution doesn't start and end with the fact that I've been charged to court and it turned out to be baseless or malicious.
Yes.
Now, malicious prosecution is not that you were tried in court and the court found the charges baseless or unsupported by evidence. No. Yes. Malicious prosecution is a specific determination or specific combination of facts that shows that this was pointless from day one. Now, the value chain of that doesn't start with whether somebody propounded a charge against you or not. Because at the end of the day, there's prosecutorial discretion and there's prosecutorial immunity for propounding charges when you believe that there's sufficient evidence. Now, the police are victims also in a society where we as citizens can act anyhow. If you can move the hand of the police by spurious, inappropriate allegations, then you are as much part of the problem as what people allege the police is. And there have been cases like that. I remember there was a case in the US for many years of some woman who drove her children into a pond and they died. And blamed it on someone else. And because this person had a record of crime, and just look at the sheer number of cases and the number of people who have been removed from death row because somebody lied. And somebody who's come back and said, yeah, you know what, I lied. That's where malicious prosecution started. And you can say the police acted irresponsibly, but the reality is they were triggered by somebody else's conduct. Now, does this mean that citizens, including brand owners, cannot report a matter to the police? No, it doesn't. But there must be subjective, true belief that criminal conduct has occurred. Now, I say subjective because what you think may be different from what I think. But even your subjective concern about criminal conduct occurring must be subjected to an objective standard. And it's that objective standard that we would use to determine if this was a sensible alarm or a false alarm, or if you were just trying to suppress dissent or opinion, which are constitutional guarantees anyway. And so that's what we got involved in with respect to the tomato mix.
You were very quick to get involved. I read how quickly you moved to the police station to see or meet with the lady in question, to see what was happening. So what was the result of your involvement?
And so what we did was to immediately send a team to the police station, and she wasn't there, but we understood she was en route to Abuja. And so we opened the communication channel with the force headquarters, and in 24 hours, I think we must have even sent maybe 2 pieces of written correspondence. I spoke with the Commissioner of Police in Lagos. I spoke with the Principal Staff Officer of the Inspector General of Police, and continued the engagement. And for us, it wasn't about whether something had gone wrong or not. It wasn't about whether her post was fair comment or not.
Yes.
It was about all the information we had satisfies us sufficiently that this wasn't criminal conduct. And the fact that it wasn't criminal conduct doesn't mean that the manufacturer would not have any remedies in the event that this was inappropriate conduct.
Yes.
But it certainly was, we just didn't think that this was something that should end up in detention or prosecution. And so that was our own engagement, and we're grateful that at the end of the day, between that and other interventions, she was released from custody.
Do you think that her apology was appropriate? Do you think perhaps she apologized under duress?
Now, so I can't say, we don't have the information. They would be coming in. I mean, when I say they, her lawyer has expressed that he would be representing her as part of our own investigation about what she said.
Yes.
Because even she is a subject of investigation based on what she said. Yes. So I can't say that yet, but it's something that we would ask her questions about. Not that that's that important to a regulatory intervention, but it's an important finding for us to be able to provide feedback to law enforcement authorities about securing the space. But I can tell you something, basically as a lawyer, that a negative review of a product, and especially when you attribute it to your own personal experience, means you get your opinion. Now, I would have said my first thing would have been her opinion was not factual if she was saying that there was any property or ingredient in the product that
ought
didn't
not to
exist.
be there.
That didn't exist. Well, it's not about whether it ought not to be there or not.
Yes.
And so, for instance, if she said, well, she says, look, there's sugar in this product. Question is there sugar or not? If it turns out that there's absolutely no sugar in that product, then her allegation is baseless.
Yes.
But
if there's
sugar, and so a baseline fact. The next thing she says is it's too much. Now that's subjective. It might be too much for me and not too much for you. So it's difficult for that to ultimately become criminal conduct. But it might still be unfair or inappropriate. And so one of the things we did was to start polls and focus groups to gather information about people's opinion about the product and how they characterize the product, their views or expressions about whether there's sugar in it or how much sugar in it will form part of the objective standard by which we test her subjective opinion. And that's how the process would work. And it will end with a finding. Suffice to say, though, that to the extent that her criticism was about a product, it would be difficult to sustain a criminal defamation allegation. Because in criminal defamation, it must be the reputation of an individual. It must be a real victim, not a victim that's a brand. I mean, of course, the brand owner and all of that and the company are victims, but the law, defamation about the reputation of the company is a civil issue. It's not going to be criminal at all.
Join us again after the break. Welcome back to my concluding moments now with Babatunde Rukera. Does it make any difference that NAFDAC has actually come out to say that even though there's sugar in the product, it's not harmful? In fact, it's quite normal to have sugar as a preservative in some of these products.
Very good. Now, my worry with that is that I think NAFDAC has done the absolute right thing. And I don't think NAFDAC did it to defend a company.
No.
I think NAFDAC did it because it was important for consumers to know, and it could be misleading, people could be afraid, and to also validate this particular product that, listen guys, for those of you who are patrons of this product, don't be afraid. You're not consuming some dangerous product, and the manufacturer of this product is not engaging in illegal conduct. That was a very important message NAFDAC had to pass to both the patrons of the product and the rest of the community or society that use tomato mix. So that was an important thing. Put differently, what that also does is that it diminishes the case that the commenter's review was a spurious allegation because it validates the fact that there is sugar in the product.
Yes. All right, so the issue of tickets and trains and so many sharp practices going on. There are incidents now where people want to board the train, and when they seek tickets, they will say there are no tickets available. But you have members of the train, the staff at the railways now taking people in to the coaches and say, oh, come with me, I'll get you tickets. And then when they get there, the train starts to move, and then the staff are collecting cash from them. So, I was following this thread on my friend Shola Salako's page, and someone said, why would anyone want to pay cash? Well, the train has moved from the station. You feel obliged to pay. You don't want to be a troublemaker. You are there. You understand? So, what can people do about that?
I saw that for the first time, and what I did was to immediately contact the Minister of Transportation, who oversees Nigerian Railway Corporation. And then we're engaging already. I'm very grateful that he has even already said that he actually is on it. He responded to me and says, we're on this. And in our usual role, what we will do is, once we've catalyzed action by a more focal regulator or solution provider, we just remain oversight to monitor and see the outcome. So we look to see how this plays out.
And the thing is, it would appear to me, and I'm trying to find the right words, you know, sometimes when government brings these ways that things can improve, especially now that we're going more digital, go online and register, go online and do something, there's a resistance from the people who run the agencies. It's like they don't want these improvements because it reduces physical engagement, interaction with the potential clients.
Which promotes graft.
Yes, you know, thereby limiting, you know, options and opportunities for graft. What is the way forward? Because it's you know, they tell you go online and register. You find that you can never register. But when you get to the office, outside these offices, you see people there with laptops and you're able to register. And this is across board. Whether you're registering for NYSC, you're registering for anything, it's always so difficult to access the website. But the people who run these things are still thriving on this physical interaction.
Technology is a disruptor, and we also have to, in seeking solutions, as citizens, we must seek solutions that are sustainable. For instance, where technology fails, what we should be looking for is how to make the technology work, not to return to the old alternative that didn't work. I remember very, very many years ago in the UK, when they were transitioning from the manual entry into the trains and the underground, people used to jump over the turnstiles and everything. Now it can't happen anymore. It's a sustained, tedious, but very pedantic and stubborn approach till technology ultimately eliminates the room for those interactions that promote craft. And you know, we're on the cusp of it rather late, so we're experiencing the associated teething problems as we must.
Yes.
What government and regulators must do is just remain determined, and what citizens must do is to understand that there are bad elements everywhere, whether in government or on the streets. You know, there are bad elements everywhere, and those bad elements, who are sometimes not state actors, in fact just private actors also, will always seek to frustrate a system. But if we allow that to happen, that system won't sustain. And one of the threads I read, you had someone who insisted that no, I want to go and get a ticket. I don't want to approach the train through an entrance that is not. But of course, ultimately run into trouble. So that continuing insistence. Or if I were on that train, for instance, I would have declined to pay by cash if I have a card. So, you know what? If for any reason you put me on this train and you are going to take it off and you wanted me to pay on the train, you should have had a POS.
Right.
You should have an equipment that allows me to pay cashless. And when they put it in and the receipt comes out, look at the name on the receipt. If it says Babatunde Irukera and Co, wait a minute, you can't take this away. This doesn't show that I've paid to the Railway Corporation.
Yes.
And so all of the policemen in Nigeria are what? How many thousand? There are 200 million of us. We must police ourselves too.
There is a tendency for people to view you as a troublemaker. You know, you're at the airport and everyone's queuing, and then someone comes and, you know, the airport staff are taking them to the front, and then you start to, you know, talk about it, and everyone initially looks at you. Sometimes, you know, when someone starts to react, then everyone joins in. But generally speaking, people look at you as the troublemaker. Look, Are you not a Nigerian kind of thing?
And so a troublemaker you are. We must have a few troublemakers in any society. I mean, I'm considered a nuisance. I'm considered a troublemaker, a nuisance, an interloper, minding other people's business. Always, I mean, what's the greatest criticism about Hiruka? I would always, he goes beyond his mandate. Even what is not his business, he gets into it. So what? And so what? I mean, and many times, just making that trouble doesn't matter that you resolve that situation. It's also an advocacy tool. It also lets others, many times some people just don't even know. Many times those who say, look, aren't you a Nigerian, feel that, look, let's not run the boat because we don't have these rights.
Yes.
And so what you're doing each time you're making trouble is also sensitization.
Educating people.
Secondly, many times people have said to me that they've written to a company or an electronic store and written them a letter saying, I bought this washing machine from you, I bought this television, it's not working, I've been trying to get you to fix it, you haven't fixed it. Then CC, FCC, PC, they get a call. They have not even sent out
The repairman.
the copy.
Yeah.
No, they just copied me on the letter, they haven't even sent out the copy to me.
To you, okay.
Yet somebody sees it and says, oh no, why, it's no big deal, let's sort this out. And so, at the end of the day, we succeed when things go right, not when we resolve everything. And that's where we must head. We would never be able to hold every single person accountable. That's what an accountability framework is. The best framework is where one says, I do not want to even have to deal with this, so I'd rather not. And so making that trouble, somebody else is watching, just says, no, I'm not going to get involved in this. I mean, I've been at the airport where passengers were getting on rowdy and unruly with an airline operative because of a delay, and somebody sitting at the counter of the other airline goes to announce our own flight is going to be delayed also, and this is the reason, because they didn't want their own passengers to come and get rowdy. So say, look, let's just go make an announcement now.
And let them know.
Let them know. And so we're modifying behavior. I just believe that if what we consider making trouble is speaking up, but not violating the law, I mean becoming disruptive, then it's a good thing to speak up.
Well, thank you very much, Mr.
The Nigerian music industry has witnessed growth over the years, and with this growth, a rise in international visibility and dominance. A Grammy Award is any of a series of awards presented each year in the United States by either the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences or the Latin Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences. The Grammys, as they are commonly known, are meant to recognize spectacular work in the music industry. In light of Burna Boy and Wizkid becoming the latest Nigerian Grammy Award-winning entertainers, let's take a look at a list of Nigerians who have won a Grammy Award. Sikiru Adepoju is a percussionist and recording artist and plays primarily in the genres of traditional African music and world music. He plays a variety of instruments and styles. In 1991, he won his first Grammy as part of Mickey Hart's group, Planet Drum, whose title album won the Grammy Award for Best Contemporary World Music Album. That was the first time there was a Grammy in that category. He won again on 8 February 2009 as a part of Mickey Hart's latest group, Global Drum Project. Helen Folashade Adu, known as Shade Adu, is a singer, songwriter, cum actress. She is known as the lead singer of her eponymous band. She holds the title of the first artist of Nigerian origin to win the prestigious award. Her first Grammy was in 1986 for Best New Artist. In 1994, with No Ordinary Love for Best R&B Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocals. She earned her third Grammy in 2002 with Lovers Rock. in the Best Pop Vocal Album. In 2011, she won a 4th Grammy with Soldier of Love for Best R&B Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocals. Lekan Babalola is a Nigerian jazz percussionist and musician who started playing the conga at an early age. He has 7 albums to his name and 2 Grammy Awards. In 2006, he became Nigeria's first Grammy Award winner for his work on Ali Farka Touré's In the Heart of the Moon, which he was credited in 3 tracks. He also won a 2nd Grammy in 2009 for his work on Cassandra Wilson's 2008 album titled Lovely. He began his Grammy Award and has been nominated for 2 Academy Awards. She gained recognition for starring in the Broadway revival of The Color Purple from 2015 to 2017, for which she won the Grammy Award for Best Musical Theatre Album. She began acting in a 2011 stage production of The Umbrellas of Cherbourg and had a first screen role in the British television series Chewing Gum. Henry Olusegun Adiola Samuel is better known by his professional name Seal. He is a British-Nigerian musician, singer, and songwriter, best known for his 1994 hit song, Kiss from a Rose. He has 14 Grammy nominations to his name and has won 4. His song, Kiss from a Rose, earned him 3 Grammy Awards in 1996 and 2011. He won his 4th award, Imagine. He holds one of the highest numbers of Grammy Awards by a Nigerian. Damini Ebunluwa Okulu, known professionally as Burna Boy, is a Nigerian singer, songwriter, rapper, and dancer. He is one of the biggest and most successful African artists. In 2020, his album Twice as Tall was nominated for the same category at the 63rd Annual Grammy Awards, making him the first Nigerian with back-to-back nominations at the Grammys. In 2021, he won the award for Best World Music Album for his album Twice as Tall at the 63rd Annual Grammy Awards. Burna Boy describes his music as Afrofusion, a genre that blends Afrobeats, dancehall rhythms, reggae, American rap, and R&B. Ayodeji Ibrahim Balogun, known professionally as Wizkid, is a Nigerian singer and songwriter, one of Africa's biggest artists, and one of the most revolutionary Afropop artists of the modern era. He rose to prominence after releasing Holla at Your Boy, the lead single from his debut studio album, Superstar. In 2016, Wizkid achieved international recognition following his collaboration with Drake on the global hit One Dance. He signed a multi-million-dollar album deal with RCA Records in March 2017. In 2019, he featured on Beyoncé's project, The Lion King, The Gift, on the collaboration Brown Skin Girl, which won him a Grammy Award for Best Music Video. The Grammy winner is presently the most streamed Nigerian artist of all time on Spotify, with a total of over 3 billion streams across all credits.
On Plus TV News Now tonight, President Tinubu advocates good governance as antidote to coups in West Africa. Nigerian Air Force kills most wanted terrorist, Yellow Jambros and others in Niger operation. Ex-Sierra Leone president under house arrest amid coup investigation. And Israeli tanks reach center of Khan Yunis in new storm of southern Gaza. Good evening to you. I am Justin Akadonia, and this is the news now on Plus TV Africa. We begin with the ECOWAS summit. President Bola Tinubu has encouraged members of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to remain committed to ensuring that democracy remains the only form of governance in the sub-region. Speaking in his capacity as chairman during the opening ceremony of the 64th Ordinary Session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, which is taking place in the State House, Abuja, President Tinubu asked the leaders to fight for democracy and stand against unconstitutional change of government among member states. West African leaders are meeting for talks with the region in a deepening crisis after 4 countries fell under military rule and with risks growing from Sahel jihadist conflicts.
Security in the region is the focal point, and we must achieve this regardless of other commitments. I would like to reiterate the imperative of the regions to continue to re-engage under the military rule and basis of realistic and short transition plan that can deliver democracy and good governance. No alternative. I wish to underscore the fact that we stand against unconstitutional change of government in our sub-region, and we will continue to do so. I therefore urge all of us to stand strong and highly committed in the face of any challenge in Sierra Leone and Guinea-Bissau. The message must go down clearly that we will support a democratically elected government, not unconstitutional exercise without let of hindrance. Democracy must win if we fight for it. And we will definitely fight for democracy.
Meantime, the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has urged the removal of subsidy on petrol in May this year. SERAP also urged the NNPCL boss to disclose details of payment of 11 trillion naira as subsidy and to clarify allegations that the company has failed to remit revenues generated from oil to the public treasury since the removal of subsidy on petrol. Recall that former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Sanusi Lamido, had last week alleged that the NNPCL is failing to remit enough foreign exchange into the treasury despite the removal of fuel subsidy. Well, moving on, the Labour Party's presidential candidate in the 2023 election, Peter Obi, has urged Nigerian political leaders to shun corrupt practices. Obi noted that leaders engaging in corruption are setting bad precedents for the children. Speaking about the reported high percentage of youths engaging in cybercrime, Obi also stated that the question to be asked was where the children are learning such criminality from. Reflecting on the International Anti-Corruption Day, which was held on Saturday, the former Anambra State governor, in a long post on his X handle, said Nigerians need to soberly reflect on the effect of corruption in the society and on the country. Meanwhile, Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Ola Olukoyede, says adherence to the rule of law, among other factors, is key to building investor confidence in the country. Olukoyede was represented by the Illinois Zonal Commander of the agency, Michael Nzekwe disclosed this during a walk to commemorate the 2023 International Day Against Corruption in Ilorin.
All over the world, corruption is a threat to the growth and development of individuals and nations. Only through professionalism and adherence to the rule of law will the Commission be able to contribute to economic growth by restoring investors' confidence in our economy. At the EFCC, we remain committed to working with the corruption prevention template recommended by UNCAC. In driving this prevention focus, the Commission under my watch will prioritize these focal areas: collaboration and synergy with local and foreign law enforcement agencies, professionalism and strict adherence to the rule of law as the absolute minimum in all activities of the Commission.
Corruption is one of the factors that destroy any nation, most especially our dear country, Nigeria. We, as traditional ruler, we always try to support and encourage all the agencies fighting the corruption to do their best.
If you don't fight corruption, corruption will fight you back. And all of us eventually will be the victim. With the turnout here today, it shows that there is a synergy and all of us are willing to actually fight corruption.
For our willingness, of our desire that as they march forward in the step of going against corruption in our land, we will play our part in every facet of our ramifications to make sure that they are successful.
Now, the chairman of the Anti-Graft Agency said interagency collaboration should also be adapted if the cycle of corruption is to be tackled comprehensively. In a precision airstrike executed by the Nigerian Air Force, the infamous terrorist and kidnapping ringleader Yellow Jambros met his end along with scores of his cohort in Shiroro local government area of Niger State. Yellow Jambros, known for orchestrating multiple kidnappings and killings across states, including Kaduna, Niger, Katsina, and Zamfara, was targeted by the air component of Operation Well Punch. The Air Commodore and Director of Public Relations and Information for the Nigerian Air Force, Edward Gapquet, confirmed the success of this critical operation in a statement. Now, the Northern Coalition of Socio-Political Group has condemned calls for the sack of the service chiefs and other senior military officers over the airstrike at Tudunbiri in Kaduna State. Addressing a press conference, the Deputy National President of the group, Balarabi Lawal, expressed sadness over the incident while commiserating with the victims' families. He said the demand by religious and political leaders for the sack of the service chiefs is unnecessary.
It is worthy of note to say the Chief of Defense Staff is not for the Southern Kaduna or Kaduna Christian or Muslim, rather for the whole nation. We are therefore calling on our brothers from Arewa Group to avoid bringing the issue of religion and ethnicity in what happened, bombing at Tudunbiri. Meanwhile, we are joining the United Nations, ACFJNI, and other organizations demanding full, thorough, honest, and open investigation of the incident, while we urge the military roles of engagement to avoid the occurrence of an airstrike on a community in Kaduna State that killed several civilians. The devastating impact on the lives and emotional effects are better imagined. Therefore, we are urging the government and international communities to assist members of the community, especially victims' family, to cushion the effect of the bomb attack.
The group condemned the Arewa groups and individuals who have embarked on what they described as a campaign of calumny, urging them to desist from doing so.
It is too early and out of place for anyone to give the incident an ethnic or religious coloration when investigation about the circumstances surrounding the bombing are still ongoing. For us, the religious and political leaders demanding for the sack of the Chief of Army, Chief of Defense Staff, the Chief of Army Staff, other service chiefs, and the GOC are unnecessarily stirring up tension. We want peace and tranquility despite the ugly incident. A group and few other people who have embarked on campaign of calumny should please stop pointing accusing fingers at the Chief of Defense. We therefore are calling the good people of Kaduna and Nigeria in general to avoid bringing up the issue of religious, ethnicity, and sentiment.
Well, still talking security matters, the Nigerian Navy has inducted 12 unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, into its assets to improve its surveillance capabilities and enable it to fight maritime crimes. The Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogala, while inaugurating the drone, said that they would assist the Navy in the protection of the country's maritime assets while improving maritime surveillance. Admiral Ogala, who was represented by the Chief of Training and Operations, Rear Admiral Zakaria Mohammed, said the surveillance UAVs would complement the already existing air assets of the Nigerian Navy while supporting the surface ships and maritime domain awareness platforms.
These drones are expected to enhance one of our trinities of action, that is the surveillance leg of the trinity. The others are response and enforcement. These drones will be integrated into our existing maritime domain awareness infrastructure and better enhance our real-time reconnaissance and surveillance so that the Nigerian Navy will continue its effort to curtail maritime criminalities, crude oil theft, piracy, among others. The acquisition of the drones came along with the training package, and pilots have been trained on it, and also engineers have also been trained on the maintenance, and this training will continue.
Meantime, the Directorate of Islamic Affairs of the Nigerian Army has held its annual training conference at the 81 Division of the Officers' Mess. The theme of this year's training week was tagged Enhancing Spiritual Well-being of the Nigerian Army Personnel for Effective Performance in a Joint Environment.
Training is a routine in the armed forces. So in the Army, towards the end of the year, we do what we call whole training week. Is there to interact with the officers in the field and analyze our performance for the year past and chart a way forward to the next year. If it is where they have performed weakly or wrongly, they should be corrected this time around for the next year. It's just a preparation to end the new year with a kind of new hope and zeal to excel in service delivery.
Your position as spiritual leaders and advisors in the Nigerian Army cannot be overemphasized, especially as in our ongoing operation to effectively confront the security challenges in various parts of the country. Therefore, it is imperative that this training week provides ample opportunity for robust liberation and brainstorming that will lead to innovative modalities that will enhance the performance of our officers and soldiers in the area. I implore you to spiritually and intellectually deliberate on novel ideas, initiatives, and techniques that will assist the Nigerian Army discharge its responsibilities more effectively.
And straight now to Delta State, where the governor, Sheriff Oborowori, says residents and contractors have no right to build bombs on major roads across the 20 local government areas of the state without approval. Speaking through the State Commissioner for Works, Rural and Riverine Roads, Charles Aniago, the governor recalled that 2 weeks ago, the government released a sum of 30 billion naira to various contractors to fund ongoing projects across the state. Our correspondent, Akpomejoro Friday, reports that Aniago said communities were they have built up and have children crossing the roads have to come to the Ministry of Works and apply for approval from them.
Community where you have a whole lot of built up areas and you have children crossing the road, they will need to come back to us. As a ministry, we will examine it and look at the need. We are not saying you won't have bombs in some corridor, but it's going to be bombs that will serve both the community and serve the motoring public. We are no longer going to have bombs that serve only some persons who feel they are highly placed in society and are so they are putting bombs so that when they are coming out from their compound, they can zoom into the road and then allow the man who is following who has the right of way to wait. No, that will not happen. And going forward, no contractor has the right to introduce a bomb that we have not certified. No contractor has that right. Any bomb, the ministry must agree and ask the contractor to introduce that bomb because it will serve the community, it will serve the motoring public.
And now to Oyo State, where the government has shown its confidence in the 2024 proposed budget, saying it has what it takes to cushion the effect of inflation and sustain the economy of the state. Our correspondent John Alabi reports that the confidence was reiterated during a budget breakdown and analysis in Ibadan. Commissioner for Budget, Professor Babatunde, noted that the 2024 proposal of 434 billion naira will better the lot of the state economically, as what remains is the input of both the citizens, government officials, and civil society organizations.
So for the current expenditure, it is 211 billion, 884 million, 445,738 naira 94 kobo, and that's 48.8% of total budget. Why the current expenditure moves slightly up is because we have to make certain provisions. The wage award that His Excellency gave is going to spill over to the next year, first part of next year. And also the provision that in case minimum wage should change and they need to negotiate with labor and whatever we need to make provision.
Meanwhile, the professor of economics said with the 2024 proposed budget, there will be no industrial strikes through the cooperation of the civil servants, while the state will ensure every taxable entity in persons and organizations are moderately administered.
We are trying to make sure that we bring as much taxable entities as possible into the tax net. We will try to block leakages through public financial management reforms and try to enhance collection framework using information and communication technology. We want to further stimulate the economy of Oyo State using calibrated regulatory policy measures that can boost value addition.
Now, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry says it will continue to engage with the state and federal government on all matters of policies that will improve the economy and address concerns of the business community. The new president and chairman of the Council of the Chamber, Gabriel Idahosa, stated this while speaking with journalists shortly after his investiture. Plus TV correspondent Love Ikuku Oyedokun was there and now reports.
It was a two-in-one event for the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, LCCI. Celebration of its 135th anniversary and the investiture of Mr. Gabriel Idahosa as the 43rd president of the chamber. Adorned in different colorful attires, members of the LCCI community turned out in large numbers to grace the occasion as the outgoing president, Michael Olawale Cole, transfers the reins of leadership to the new president. The moment was indeed that of mixed feelings for both men.
As the president, we will do well. We will exceed our performances. The Lord will give you strength. He will give you the health. He will give you all the elements to be extraordinary. And you will be very, very honorable president. In Jesus' mighty name.
In an emotional-laden speech, the former LTCI boss ruminated on the journey so far. He urged members and staff to give unflinching support to the new president to succeed in his role.
Please, as you have done for me, you stood by me the last 2 years. Please stand by my brother. It's my twin brother, Gabriel. I love him with passion. We met in the chamber, but I love him with passion. Please, as you have supported me for the last 2 years, please stand by him and see that he takes the chamber to the next level.
Gabriel Idahosa is a new LCCI president. For him, the investiture marked not just a destination, but a continuation of a journey filled with possibilities, growth, and new horizons.
I am relying and expecting the energy that is in the chamber among our officers, among the staff, to continue to be at a very high level. The president cannot do anything without the management of LCCI and the officers on my executive. So I am as good as the executive and the council. So I expect that energy that we have will continue to be there for me, and I will give every reason for them to continue to support us, because clearly I will reflect their aspirations in everything we do.
Taking over the mantle of leadership at a time Nigeria is trying to overcome numerous challenges, Idahosa assured that he will continue to reflect the aspirations of members in every aspect.
Clearly, in 135 years, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce has risen to a certain level of responsibility in this economy, of advocacy, of working with the states, the Lagos state and the federal government on major economic issues. So that tradition will remain. We will continue to engage with the Lagos state government. We will continue to engage with the federal government on all matters of policies that can improve our economy and address any concerns that the business community has. That is our mandate, and that is what we will continue to do.
The LCCI boss stressed that he hopes to draw greatly from the well of historic legacies of the founding fathers and also embrace the realities of the present to uplift the Chamber's brand. Love Ikuku Oyedokun, Plus TV News.
Now, the National Council for Arts and Culture has marked its National Festival of Art and Culture with stakeholders across the state of the Federation to review challenges faced by NAFEST and to proffer solutions to grow the nation's economy. The Director General, National Council for Art and Culture, Dr. Olusegun Runsewe, said the event was aimed at promoting skill acquisition for self-reliance, jobs and employment creations, reduction of landfill waste incineration, and environmental protection.
It's an opportunity for everyone to contribute. It's an opportunity for everyone to say his or her observation. And we build a frame out of it to build a lasting thing for this country. Part of the paper we're releasing today, funding is part of it. We want to adopt a new strategy how to fund this sector, because what we are using to kill a rat can actually bring a life for tourism.
Now, some participants who spoke with newsmen at the event called on all tiers of government to pay critical attention to culture and tourism.
The cultural sector has not been given attention so much by the federal government, and it is about time that the Nigerian government know that in culture we can even forget about this oil and look at other sectors. The cultural sector is very rich in the sense that our culture is rich. We have a lot of tourism sites, most especially in Kaduna State. We have so many tourism sites. You can see that in Israel depends on tourism. Even Saudi Arabia depends on tourism. So many countries, Singapore and so on, Malaysia and so on, they all depend on tourism. Why can't we do that here to Nigeria? it is very important that the Nigerian government know and respect this sector.
We need to work together, and you can generate funds, you can generate money. In any case, the basic thing is that the coordination, the synergy is not too perfect. It's not just about that. Like somebody asked, if can you buy this thing for 50,000 naira or something like that, people will not buy, but it's jeans. Even here, you will see ton jeans being bought for 145,000 naira. You see, our mentality, our attitude locally should be changed. So what he says is that we need to synergize, think outside the box and see that we have what we can do, what can be done, what can promote us, what can make us, like I'm seeing all of you now, there is nothing here that's better than what my this friend is wearing, or what this my sister is wearing. Look, let us face.
The Lutheran Church of Christ in Nigeria has charged the government to tackle the challenges facing the country. This was contained in a communique issued by the Archbishop Musa Pardi Fibulus during the Iranian National Convention which held in Demsa, Adamawa State. The Archbishop said it is the Church's responsibility to enhance peace and reconciliation among Nigerians.
The 216th General Church Council of the Lutheran Church of Christ in Nigeria, comprising over 700 members, including the Board of Trustees, Bishops, Council, Executive Council, clergy, delegates, officers from various church institutions, and advisors convened at St. John's Archcathedral, Luman, from November 27 to 30th, 2023. During this time, we celebrated the 110th anniversary of our church, giving thanks to God for His faithfulness. We engage in common worship, communion, and prayers, particularly for peace in Nigeria and globally, including the situation in the Middle East and neighboring countries such as Nigeria, Republic, Sudan, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. Reports were received from various sectors of the church at the national level, departments, subgroups, and from all dioceses.
The governments at all levels have been advised to ensure special allocation for the aged, women, widows, and the vulnerable in their respective annual budget. The call was made in Ado-Ekiti by a philanthropist, David Falegon, at an event to present cash and material gifts to the vulnerable. Falegon, who paid the medical bills of some indigent patients in Ekiti State University Teaching Hospital and some other health facilities in the state capital, challenged the government to do more in the direction of poverty alleviation.
And looking at the states as well, there's no allocation for the aged women, especially if they haven't worked in any corporate organization before. There's no allocation for them. I noticed that 7-8 years ago, and that was why I thought I was going to fill that gap. To me, they are not doing much for the people. Look at the states. When I was at the state hospital yesterday, clearing some hospital bills and stuff like that. There's so much poverty in the land. The economic value of the state is almost zero. My message to the state government is, I need you guys. It's so imperative. It's high time you guys did more. High time. Because as long as you guys are not living up to expectation and the welfare of the people, of the aged women in the state, I'm going to be on your neck. And I'm going to continue doing this. To me, I think they should be based on a salary, like a wages, like every month, monthly stipend. It doesn't need to be huge. It's just like what we're doing. Let's say everyone here, we're giving like 10,000 naira. All right? It's what the state can do.
The government of Ekiti State should do better if they are doing anything at all as far as this program is this kind of program is concerned. They should do more. They have more resources to do it. It's a matter of organizing it through the works. The canogram is already there. At the unit level, you can reach out to anybody. From there, you graduate to ward level. From one level to local government to senatorial to the state. So there is no way if they organize this type of a program, it will not reach the grassroots.
I cherish it so much. I'm even using Okpayemi David Falegon as a point of contact for my children, that God should bless them. They should even do more than this. I cherish it.
I thank God for the program.
God make it to come to pass today, because I've been hearing this program for maybe since April this year. So.
Still ahead on these now, Egyptians head to the polls in elections held amid Israel-Hamas war. Sisi likely to win. The details when we return to join us again.
An African girl somewhere is sitting at home, accompanied by dreams that seem so far away. Africa is one of the continents with the highest out-of-school percentage in education, and girls are at an early disadvantage. The sub-Saharan Africa records about 18 million out-of-school girls. This gender gap extends to the tech space with a projection of